Alright, so I'm having an issue with my 70 Cougar with rear mount twin turbos, so I'm not building any boost at all, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I've got long tube headers. I have them connected down, wrap the pipe basically all the way. It's going to be mirror on the other side, but I have the pipe coming up over the axle through. I have my wastegate feeding straight off, turns in, goes into the housing, and then out. I have my lines for the wastegate feeding off of the connector here. Coming around, this is a piston style wastegate, so I have it feeding the bottom port. I took the connectors off, trying to troubleshoot. Top port is vented to atmosphere. I have each side of the turbo feeding into a Y pipe. It's 2.5 into 3, and I have the pipe going up and over the axle and then feeding forward. Pipe comes all the way up. I have it going into the intercooler. Coming out, I have a HKS blow-off valve feeding through. This is all 3-inch tubing going around into the blow-through carburetor running E85. I can kind of hear them spooling up, but I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the pressure from the exhaust is opening up the wastegates. I have a 6-pound spring. Tried disconnecting the lines from the turbos to the wastegate, so it's just spring pressure. Pulled the line off the blow-off valve to make sure it wasn't opening prematurely. Checked it as I revved it. Nothing. When I took it for a bit of a spirited drive, I saw my vacuum pressure drop. So it normally sits around 20 inches and dropped to 0 whilst I was not open throttle on it, but probably 4,500, 5,000 RPM, and it was just sitting at 0. And so I'm not building anything. So I'm not sure if the exhaust is too long, creating back pressure to open up the wastegates before it can build anything. I'm not sure if the intake piping is too large, which, you know, you're talking a 3-inch pipe that's, 15, 16, feet just to the intercooler. So a total of probably 20 feet or so at that diameter is probably a bit too much. So it's probably just feeding the engine enough air without building any boost. So lowering the diameter of the piping, I wouldn't get another intercooler, but lower the piping size to 2.5. The turbos are 67, 62 with a 1.01 AR. The reason I went with that is because I'm building a stroker motor. So I have another motor and stroker kit ready to go to the machine shop. It's going to be a 408. And the heads are flowing quite a bit more over stock. I think these stock ones are 180, and I'll be doing 280 at 5,000s lift for them. So it should be flowing a lot more. I think the current compression ratio of the motor is 8.7, 8.8, and I'll be doing a 10.6 for the stroker motor. Figured I would keep it conservative just because I want to run 10 to 14 pounds of boost. So I figured it would work out well for the horsepower that I'm wanting. And they're not too large of turbos, being 67, 62, but I don't know if the AR number is preventing them from spooling too much. But I'm just not too familiar with turbos enough to figure out all the math and what would be needed and changes. So I'm open to ideas. I've already troubleshot the wastegate. I did a pressure test on it prior to install to make sure the springs were opening up correctly, because I didn't want one operating differently, because I'm feeding each turbo individually from each side of the motor without any crossovers or anything. But I'm open to suggestions. Thanks.